Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ba'd. So we're going to continue inshallah with the book that we were reading before Ramadan, Salihin, by Imam al-Nawawi, which has about 2,000 hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. And after Isha, the khatiras that I give, we're going to switch to keeping verses from the Quran, inshallah. So it'll be reflections on the Quran after Isha, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Fajr, 5 days a week will be Salihin. So we'll be doing Quran and Sunnah, inshallah, because we need this in our life. The next chapter is Bab استحباب صوم ستة أيام من شوال. The chapter on the virtue of fasting 6 days from the month of Shawwal. So, what month are we in, by the way? Didn't we know? Shawwal month. Good, strict question. So we're in Shawwal now. So after Ramadan comes Shawwal. So عن أبي أيوب رضي الله عنه أن رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قال, the Messenger of Allah said, من صام رمضان ثم أتبعه ستا من شوال كان كصيام الدهر. رواه مسلم. The Prophet said that whoever fasts the month of Ramadan and then follows it up with 6 of Shawwal, it will be as if he fasted forever. So the Messenger of Allah is basically saying that after you finish fasting in Ramadan, you should do 6 more fasts as nafl, as optional, something that's recommended. So he's recommending fast 6 more times. So he's saying, why is that? Because if you do that every single year, if you do that every single year, what's going to happen? It's like you fasted the whole year. So how does that work? So every single deed, and by the way, this is not just an interpretation of scholars. There are other hadiths where the Messenger of Allah ﷺ explained the multiplier effect when it comes to the month of Shawwal. But the hadiths on that are not that strong. Even though they're not that strong, these are the strong ones. The hadith which are a little bit weaker, but they still explain. This could have been the explanation of the Messenger of Allah, which coincides and makes sense with the authentic narrations. So you're saying basically every good deed that you do, it's mentioned in the Quran, it's mentioned in hadith, that it's multiplied by 10, a minimum of 10 deeds. So if you fast 6 days in Shawwal, you multiply the 6 days by 10, it's as if you fasted for 60 days. When you fast 1 month of Ramadan, you multiply it by 10, it's as if you get the reward for fasting 10 months. So what remains, if you fasted 10 months, there's 2 more months left of the year. If you fast 6 more days, you multiply it by 10, that's 60 days, that's 2 months. So you did 2 months of fasting, you did as if you did 10 months of reward for fasting, 2 more months of extra fasting. So this is the recommendation of the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, and this is probably exactly why he was saying this. He's saying, you know what, when the Messenger of Allah ﷺ, when he says something, it has a basis in the Quran, but he also had the flexibility to give his own interpretation and his own recommendations from the Quran, and about Islam or about Sharia. If he made a mistake, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have corrected him. But he has the ability, in one sense, he's a musharri'. He has the ability to tell people to do something specifically in Islam, and that becomes part of the law as well. So this is one of the things that he said was a recommendation, that you should do this, because he thought it from the perspective of, imagine if someone could be getting the reward like fasting the entire year. All you do, add 6 more days after fasting is done in Ramadan, and this is gonna work for you, inshallah, you get the reward for that. So what we should be doing is in the month of Shawwal, any of the days of Shawwal, except, there's only one exception. Which day should you not fast in Shawwal? The 1st of Shawwal, which is Eid day, which was yesterday. You're not allowed to fast. But any other day in the month of Shawwal, if you do 6 fasts, they're going to be multiplied. It's recommended by the Messenger of Allah. It's going to count as if you've finished Ramadan and finished the entire year. Now, some questions have come about. Say, should you do 6 fasts the day after Eid? Consecutively, like right after the day of Eid? And the answer is no, you don't have to do that. In fact, Imam Malik, one of the great scholars of Islam, started the Maliki school of fiqh. He saw that people during his time started doing that. They thought, you know what, you should start fasting as soon as Eid is done. So he actually said, I am afraid that this will become a bid'ah, a sinful innovation, because people think this is what you're supposed to do. So he actually suggested that you not do that, because during his time, people were thinking that you should be doing that. Now, if we're not in that situation, and people are not thinking that, and you decide, you know what, it's easier for me to just start fasting from today, and I just want to get him out of the way, but you better niyyah, then you can do that, that's fine. So number one, they don't have to be immediately done. Number two, do they have to be in order? The Messenger of Allah didn't say they have to be done in order, so they don't have to be done in order. Number three, if you missed some days of fasting from the month of Ramadan, can you make up those days and then double count them and say, you know what, I get the Shawwal and I get the month of Ramadan? No, because he says, Man Saum Ramadan, whoever fasts Ramadan. You haven't actually finished fasting Ramadan. So you have to make up your days first before you finish your fasting of Ramadan. So this is three common questions. And then the fourth question, the last question will be, is that what if you haven't made up your missed days from the month of Ramadan, but you are afraid that you're not going to make them all up in Shawwal and get the 6 of Shawwal done? Can you do the fasting of Shawwal, which is nafil, which is nafila, but can you do your making up fasts later on after Shawwal is done? What's the answer to that?
Yes, some option with the sisters specifically. Yes.
So the answer is yes, but scholars have differed. Right? Why? Because the reasoning is pretty simple. Is that it's fard it's fasting in Ramadan is fard. Making up those things is fard. And you should not be doing a nafil, something that's optional, before you've completed something that's fard. So that was the logic of a few scholars. But the majority of scholars said, yes, it's true, it's a requirement, but the requirement is lasting all the way up until the next Ramadan. You're not sinful, you're not athim, and as long as you make up your fast before the next Ramadan. You shouldn't delay unnecessarily, but you're not sinful. So when the time for prayer comes in, right, let's say Zuhr time comes in, do you have to pray immediately, the fard prayer, or can you pray a nafil prayer? Can you pray, you just decide, I want to pray 2, 2, 2, 2, just because it's a nafil prayer, and then you pray Zuhr prayer. Can you do that? Yes, because the time for Zuhr ends at the end of the time of Zuhr. So the time of making up your fast ends technically at the time of the following Ramadan. So it is allowed to do that, inshallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help us to keep up our fasting and to gain this beneficial reward. Ameen. Wa sallallahu ala Sayyidina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Assalamu alaikum.